Hotels are places of refuge. Whether you're on vacation or a business trip, it serves as your temporary home. Some hotels have had a long, storied history, and as you'll see in this list, many of them aren't pleasant. These are the 5 most haunted hotels in America. Number 5. Shanley Hotel, New York. Built in 1895, the Shanley Hotel in Napanoch, New York, takes the term haunted seriously. Enough so that every guest who spends the night has to be over 16 years old and supposedly made to sign a waiver just in case something happens. One look at it would make you think twice about even approaching the property, let alone spending the night there. It sits on a street corner with its distinct Dutch Colonial architecture and peeling white paint, like it was pulled straight out of a horror film. While the building has had several different owners, the most notable one is James Shanley. He bought the property in 1895 and lived there with his wife Beatrice and their children. James and his family were happy there and welcomed various famous guests, including Thomas Edison and Eleanor Roosevelt. However, despite the ups, the family was beset with tragedies. Beatrice gave birth to 3 children, but all of them died before they even turned a year old. In 1911, the hotel barber's daughter died when she wandered and fell down a well. Then in 1918, Beatrice's sister died on the property when she suffered from influenza. Even James himself died in the hotel in 1937. These are just some of the more notable deaths that occurred here, and with so many, it's no surprise that rumors of hauntings would surface. Those who have stayed at the hotel say that paranormal experiences come with it. There have been reports of cold and hot spots, apparitions, children's laughter, the feeling of being touched and watched, and even objects moving on their own. One of the more popular apparitions seen is the ghost of 3-year-old Rosie Greger, who was the daughter of the hotel barber who died in the well. A boy that lived next door also was killed nearby when he was run over by a car. This is apart from the deaths of the Shanley's children, hence it's no surprise that guests often report hearing children's laughter echoing in certain areas, and sometimes feeling a tug or two on their clothes. A man committed suicide in the Blue Room during the 1929 market crash, and various prostitutes were also supposedly murdered in various rooms as well. The Shanley Hotel also had a secret speakeasy that operated until 1932, when it was finally raided and shut down. This speakeasy was often used by the mob for various criminal activities. This accounts for the reported sightings of figures and faces that seem as though they are handcuffed. Currently, the Shanley Hotel is taking guests. They're open to paranormal investigators and people alike who want to experience what it's like to spend some time with the undead. Number 4. The Queen Anne Hotel, California. Underneath its gorgeous and historic pink Victorian facade, the Queen Anne Hotel is home to several ghost and various paranormal occurrences. First established in 1889 by Senator James G. Fair, it was initially a girls' boarding school. Named the Mary Lake School for Girls, it opened in 1890 and was received with much acclaim in San Francisco. James created the school not just as a business, but also so that his 2 daughters would have a place of education and boarding once they arrived in the city. He was said to have had a strained relationship with his girls, and it was his way of trying to win them back. He was also known in the area to be a ladies' man, and one of his mistresses was actually a lady named Mary Lake. She eventually became the head mistress of the upper-class boarding school. Mary loved her job and was known to be very strict with her students. However, despite the school's success, it was closed unexpectedly in 1896. Mary was heartbroken over this and disappeared one night, never to be heard from again. Eventually, the school passed on to various owners. It served as a Cosmos Gentlemen's Club at some point before it was transformed into a luxurious B&B in 1995. This place holds many weddings and is popular with guests, but over the years, those who have stayed here have reported various paranormal and odd happenings inside. The staff admits that the elevator sometimes runs on its own at night with no human presence around. Cold spots and even apparitions are also cited, the most notable of which is that of former head mistress Mary Lake. Guests at the hotel have said they've seen her ghost, particularly in room 410, which was the same room she occupied during her tenure. The unusual thing is that she is considered a friendly ghost, often more helpful than scary. For instance, one man recounted that he got to the hotel late at night and was so tired from the trip, he immediately fell asleep on the bed. When he woke up the next morning, he was surprised to find himself carefully tucked in with a blanket, despite not having done so before going to bed. Other guests have mentioned being surprised at finding their suitcases unpacked for them without ever doing so themselves, and fallen items are often picked up and replaced before guests have had a chance to do so. Today, the Queen Anne Hotel remains a historic location in the San Francisco area, as well as a celebrated spooky haunt for those who dare to stay there. Number 3. The Queen Mary Hotel, California. Considered as one of the most popular transatlantic liners during the 50s, the Queen Mary ocean liner first set sail in 1936. It was a luxury liner decked out with various amenities unheard of during the era. It had a built-in pool, library, salons, several cocktail lounges, lush dining rooms, and elegant sleeping quarters. It was even fitted with a Jewish prayer room with the hopes of distancing itself from the racism growing out of Germany during the time. When World War II came, the liner was transformed into a military boat where it held more than 800,000 captives, soldiers, and prisoners of war during its service. After the war, the Queen Mary and its sister ship, the Queen Elizabeth, were both retired and sold off. Queen Mary completed her 1,000th voyage in 1967 and then was officially retired from service completely. Soon enough, it was permanently docked in Long Beach and transformed into a hotel. To do so, everything below the sea deck of the ship was gutted and taken out. This increased the total area of the ship to 400,000 square feet, making room for museums and other amenities. Because of its rich and varied past, when the Queen Mary was transformed, stories of hauntings and other paranormal experiences became the norm. Staff as well as guests reported feeling uneasy in certain areas. Two prominent spots that often receive sightings of shadowy figures as well as various ghosts are the boiler room and the bow. It's said that during wartime, the vessel accidentally ran over a smaller boat, causing a huge accident. It took hours before rescue came to help the damaged ship, and by the time it did, only 99 people survived out of the more than 400 that were on board. Those who died in the accident are said to haunt the Queen Mary after what it had done to them. Additionally, people have said they've been woken up at night with someone poking them in the face. Even the captain has said he once explored a deeper part of the ship and knocked twice on the side of the wall only to be shocked that a return knock from the other side came back. Reports of the apparitions of two women have also been seen. These are supposed to be the ghosts of the two ladies that died in the pool during its heyday. Then there's room B340. Although no one knows for sure why it's so active, staff and those who have entered say that it's one of the most notorious sites for paranormal activity. Everything from strange noises to lights turning on and off have occurred, and much of the staff today refuses to even go there. The room itself has been gutted and no one has used it since, but it's reported that those who dare enter can still experience the same unusual phenomenon every time. The Queen Mary is currently operating as a hotel, so if you're feeling up to it, it's the perfect way to spend the night if you're ready for a bit of a scare. Number 2. The Chelsea Hotel, New York. First built in 1884, the Chelsea has become famous because so many talented artists, writers, poets, actors, and musicians have at one time or another called it home, even if it was just for a short while. This 250-unit hotel can be found in the heart of New York City. Some of the most notable names that have stayed there include William Burroughs, Bob Dylan, Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, Stanley Kubrick, Andy Warhol, and Madonna. There are many that have passed away there as well, including poet Dylan Thomas, who died in room 205 from pneumonia. Perhaps the most notable death, however, was that of Nancy Spungen in October of 1978 in room 100. Nancy was the girlfriend of the Sex Pistols bassist Sid Vicious. She was found stabbed to death in their bathtub while Vicious was unconscious after a drug-fueled bender. There were also several suicides committed here, including that of Charles Jackson, the author of The Lost Weekend. Today, while the hotel is declared a historical landmark, it's also known for something else: its infamous hauntings. Guests and people who have stayed at the building say that the ghosts of those who died there can still be seen all around the hotel. Reports of cold spots, unusual gusts of wind even though the windows and doors are closed, misplaced items and loud banging or footsteps in the hallways are just some of the unusual phenomenon that go on at the Chelsea. Many people have said to have seen an apparition of a woman, and it's believed to be that of Nancy Spungen roaming around the halls near where she died. There's also several sightings of a man who keeps being seen around room 205, the room where poet Dylan Thomas died. Those that have stayed here have also claimed to seeing an apparition of a woman staring back at them in the mirror. Apparently, she is supposed to be a lady named Mary who was a survivor of the ill-fated Titanic. And though she didn't die on the boat, her husband did. The Chelsea Hotel actually served as a place of refuge for those who survived the accident, since it was located close to port. The Chelsea Hotel is currently under renovation, but plans to reopen by 2018. Number 1. Logan Inn, Pennsylvania. Settled in the picturesque area of New Hope, Pennsylvania, lies the historical Logan Inn. This landmark structure was first built as a humble tavern in 1722 and sits close to the Delaware River, as well as the famous Bucks County Playhouse. With over 3 centuries of history, it's no surprise the inn has garnered a few ghost stories since its inception. It's a favorite haunt for paranormal experts and ghost hunters who believe that the inn houses more than just a few ghouls in its halls and rooms. There have been 8 prominent spirits that have been sighted and felt throughout the building, but those who run the place believe that there could be many more. One of the most active is that of Emily. It's believed she's the mother of one of the former owners of the inn. Emily is considered a bit of a prankster as she constantly rearranges items in the rooms and often throws the windows open for no reason. What's more, she even appears as a mist hovering above the bed, spooking many guests into running out of their rooms in the middle of the night. There are also claims that there's 2 children roaming the halls, as well as various Revolutionary War soldiers marching to the beat of a phantom drum. One popular story happened in 1946 when an annual fair was held at the Logan Inn's parking lot. A palm reader by the name of Parker Den, along with his customers, began hearing the loud sobbing of a young child. These were uncontrollable cries, and they couldn't figure out who it was since there were no children around at the time. This happened on the first day of the fair, and Parker Den closed up shop and then went to get a drink. But the next day, the same uncontrollable sobbing came back again. Several people heard it, and when the fair finally ended, the sobbing did as well. This would have been left off as one of the more mysterious events in the hotel, but surprisingly, the same uncontrollable sobbing began again the following year in the exact same spot. No child was ever found crying, and the fair was never held there again. Another chilling apparition is that of a voyeuristic man that mysteriously appears in the vanity mirrors in the bathrooms. Women who use the mirror are horrified to see the face of a man behind them, but when they turn around, no one's there. Today, the Logan continues to function as a colonial-style inn. It's beautifully preserved, just like the many ghosts that supposedly haunt it. So there were the 5 most haunted hotels in America. These places have lived on in infamy because of their paranormal and haunted reputations, and it's likely these hotels will continue to harbor their spirits for many more years to come. Remember to subscribe to our channel so every week we can bring you a new Scary Mysteries video to check out. Thanks for all the support, and I'll see you next week.